Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the latest episode of Lifting the Curtain. Today I'm with a wonderful special guest and a close friend of mine, David Carter. So those of you who don't know who David Carter is, David owns 4 restaurants in central London, SmokStack and Manteca in Shoreditch, and also Agoura and Oma in Borough Market. But what more importantly in this episode is we learn what it takes to grow a restaurant group. David's actually grown SmokStack from a little pop-up to his first bricks and mortar site into having 4 restaurants as well. And so we learn a lot from this episode, but grit, determination, but we also talk about what inspires David to make the next restaurants as well. So watch this podcast, you're going to learn lots, it's going to be fantastic, and I hope you enjoy it. So hi guys, so I'm here today at SmokStack with a wonderful David Carter, who's an ex-colleague, a close friend and industry leader, especially here in London. And David, this is your first restaurant independent, so SmokStack, which is obviously amazing. We've worked together in the past at Gordon Ramsay Claridge's, it's where we first met. David came to London in 2008 at the ripe old age of 22 from Barbados. And now he's taken the London hospitality by storm with 4 restaurants now. So David, how are you?
I'm good. It's been a busy year, but it's been a good year.
Fantastic. So we first met at Claridge's back in the day, 2008, and you were my assistant restaurant manager when I was GM. It's been a long time. First and foremost, congratulations on what you've been doing. I've been watching from the sidelines, and it's phenomenal. So tell us a bit about your story. So you have SmokStack first in 2016, but in 2013 it was Dalston Yard.
Yeah, this is the OG. So SmokStack was, I guess they grew up in Barbados, so it was all about fire and cooking with like that sort of style of cooking. And then I was employed, after I left Gordon, I went to the Johnny Rocca. I did that for like 3 years.
Yeah.
And then we started doing Dalston Yard on the weekend, Friday, Saturday, when Street Feast is now sort of, I guess at its peak. We thought we were late to the party. We thought, street food had come and gone, not realizing it was at its peak. And then we did that for, I guess, that summer. And then 2014, it became quite big that I couldn't do both. So we started doing festivals. So I started doing that full-time festivals, and then we raised, I guess, we did festivals of 2014, 15, 16, which was incredibly tough. And then we opened this retail in 2016. So then that's our sort of history now, really.
So was it like moving from like a food stall to your first bricks and mortar venue? What's it like?
I think it was all quite premeditated. My background, as you know, is restaurants. I'm a restaurant person for sure. Mm-hmm. And I think it was all premeditated. So when I went from in a suit on the floor to then in a car park, people were really sort of bewildered. It was like, what's wrong with this idiot? And it was always intentional. It was always to end up here. And it was quite weird. Like when I came back into the restaurant world, it felt like coming back home. Because the event world is great, but it's logistics. You're moving, you're constantly, it's transient, you never really settle. I don't think you get a really chance to develop because you just rotate, right? You go from one event to another event. Where in a restaurant, everything is static, but then you can improve your standards, or you can improve a dish, or you can improve something. So the variables are so different that it felt I was kind of coming back home with restaurants already. And it felt, I don't say easy, but definitely easier than the event world, for me at least.
So when you first had the idea of SmokStack, I remember quite vividly you sort of planning it, especially when we knew each other when we were younger. What sort of prompted you to take the plunge and sort of go, do you know what, that's 100%. What was the sign for you to say, my street food is so amazing, let's go? What was that?
I don't think it's ever been amazing. I think I've got an entrepreneur's, I guess, heart, for lack of better words, for sure. I was always going to be doing my own thing. I think that was sort of that was quite a given. I don't think it was that premeditated. I think we kind of realized that Street Feast was kind of coming up, and I think that's the early days of Twitter. I don't even think Instagram was a thing, or not that big of a thing then. 2013, 2012, I think, Russell Norman and that sort of era. Yeah. So it was all Twitter, and I think we sort of saw this sort of street food movement. I fell in love with not just this style of cooking, but the actual smokers itself. Massive offset smokers, quite sort of like big energy. Like you look at this thing and you want to eat from it, right? And that was, at least I did. And I think that was sort of the calling for it, and was like, look, I don't want to be in employment anymore. I got to give this a shot. We started quite slowly, as I said. We did. I think our first event was August 2013.
Yeah.
And we did that until I think probably end of September. Took a little bit of a break, then did Hawker House with Street Feast in like the winter months, and then took a bit of a break, and then went traveling a lot in the sort of off season. So winter, I'd go away to the US quite a bit to try and learn and on equipment and stuff like that, and how do we be a bit better.
I think travel has been very prevalent in your life and your career,
Yeah.
and especially highlights in your restaurants that you own as well.
Yeah.
So David has Manteca, who was Italian inspired.
Yeah.
You have two Greek restaurants, which we'll
Yeah.
come on to shortly, which is kind of taken London by storm, Oma and Agoura, which you've recently just won a Michelin star as well, which is fantastic. But talk about the early days of SmokStack. So when you first got this place here, we were just talking about the founder of McDonald's. If you haven't seen the film, where they get on the playground and they draw out the food prep area and the section.
Yeah.
You were talking about that same sort of concept here when you took over here, right?
Yeah, I think when we build restaurants, we're really into like ergonomics, like how they look and aesthetically is important.
Yeah.
But ultimately how they work. And I think with this sort of space, it's not massive, and I credit Box 9, Lou, if you're really watching, for you for sure, and designing the place where she has, where it's very much the restaurant, the front door and the kitchen are the exact same point. They pass. So our entire energy when you walk through the restaurant is literally at the front door. And it means that we can serve tables bullet fast, but it also means that as soon as you walk in, there's a bit of energy. And I'm definitely a visual learner, I guess. And we come in here, spray paint the floor. That's where the hob goes, that's where the smoker goes, that's where this goes, the table goes, and like get an idea of the flow of how this kind of works ergonomically.
That's so cool.
I really enjoy that very nerdy part of the project, whereas how things work and how they function, the least steps you need to take, and then you get to the fun part of obviously what it looks like. But it always starts from your functionality. If it doesn't work, you're pissing anyone. So it's very much about how we can make this work and how we can kind of make this a really flow and a vibe and energy. And all of our projects start that way, to be honest with you. Try to start with a very open plan view, not look at the infrastructure as it is, but what it could be. And that means knocking down walls, removing stairs. We try to be quite holistic with our approach.
Learning from mistakes, redoing it again.
Yeah, keep making different mistakes, but like try not to make the same ones, but you make new ones, definitely.
So SmokStack was a success when you got the bricks and mortar site, which 2016. Fast forward into 2021. You opened up Manteca, which is literally just around the corner.
Yeah.
And that's an Italian-inspired nose-to-mouth restaurant.
So
tell us a bit about that process.
Rewind a little bit. So we opened in 2019. So Chris Leach is a chef. He's a sort of behind the menu and the creativity there. So we did that in a pop-up in 2019 in Haddon Street.
Okay. Yeah.
We had a site in Frisch Street that we were about to take. It got pulled from us last minute, so we were sort of a bit of at odds, and we just found another site that we can do on a short-term basis. Not realizing it's November 2019. Obviously March 2020, we all know what happened.
Yep.
So we were there on a short-term basis, and then coming out of COVID, we knew we needed a home. And to my point early on, we knew we wanted to invest pretty heavily in terms of what it looked like, because when we did Manteca, it was in somebody else's restaurant in terms of their design, their feel. And Chris and I kind of spoke to each other. It's like, look, the only way we can make this work is we go all in. And that's what we did. So it was an Old Pizza Express on Curtin Road. We took over, we went all in. We got to the place. Didn't really spare much in terms of build. And I think that's a common theme. What we do now, we try and not spare much of the capex stage, because I think you pay the price later on.
Yeah,
always pay the price later on. So we try to be quite sort of brave with that. And through hope for double sixes, and thankfully it's kind of turned out that way. It's been a really good opening. I think so. Then that was like, what's that, November 2021, but it was impossible to get a team then. It was really a challenging opening with people. This is challenging for different reasons. That was people for sure.
Yeah, well, you've always been great with people anyway,
well,
so you have a bit of a following anyway, so it's those people that's invested through you and from your street market time as well, so you sort of brought them through, sort of inspired people to come and work with you and alongside you, right?
I mean, there's a dark side as well, but yeah, I mean, yeah.
Always is, but So fast forward to 2024, April, Borough Market. You've opened two fabulous restaurants, Oma upstairs and Agoura downstairs. Agoura has a line out the door like you don't know, and Oma has a Michelin star now. How does it feel?
Yeah, it feels good. And I'm proud of the team. I don't think we ever get ahead of ourselves. I think we got one of our biggest successes of the last year has not been our restaurants, but our people. I know that sounds a bit cheesy, but some of our most senior guys now that run the restaurants have been with us for a long time. So whether it's Dave, whether it's Julia, whether it's Alessandra, Jorge in the kitchen there, Felipe, who's now running the other sites, Jake at Manteca, Dan, I'm calling names that I don't forget any of them. But anyhow, so it's been these people, and they've been with us for a long time. And when you see them go up the ranks and understand what you mean and what you stand for, and if you throw your toys at your pram, they understand why. It's sort of like you know what you're passionate about. They know your touch points, and I think it's been a really it's been an interesting opening, but it's been so much easier because of the people we have there. I could not have done that without Julia, I could not have done it with Dave, I could not have done that without Felipe, Luis, Jorge. I could not have done it with these guys, and they've made it so much easier. And I think that's a real common theme now with what we do. We only want to grow as fast as our people can, because I don't want to bring in GMs or head chefs from outside if we do new openings. For me, that needs to kind of come from within. It's just so much easier when we have that sort of, I don't know, that sort of, they understand your DNA and what you're passionate about and what you care about.
They're part of you and an extension of you.
So that the opening was like really staggered. I mean, we opened Agoura first. That was April 1st. Small restaurant and only the ground floor, and then we opened Oma April 12th, 2 weeks later. But Oma's an interesting one because when we started it, it seats about 140, I think. But we kept it at 60 covers to start with.
Okay.
Then feel how that felt. Then next week 70, then 80, and then eventually we got to the point where we're doing probably 300 a night, I guess, on a busy night. But there was a very, very gradual opening, and we didn't open any doors in it. Like we rammed. 1, we didn't want it. 2, we couldn't handle it. And 3, it's quite nice to kind of grow into it. We didn't have the team for it. It's probably 120 people in that building. At the time, we probably had 50, maybe 60 to start with. So tiny team, built it organically, and now it's the point where, we don't want to be any busier. I don't know if we can be any busier, if I'm honest with you. It's a good problem to have, but for us, it's all about delivery, right? It's great you got a lot of people lining up your doors, but if you serve them shit, then you're not really...
They're coming back.
Well, not only that, you're not proud. Like, if we serve something that we don't believe in, it comes from a place of like pride, and if you don't believe in what you're serving, don't serve it. So for us, it's very much about how do we kind of do numbers that we're comfortable with and food that we believe in, and serve tables that we're passionate about, and all that sort of stuff. So we don't ever lose, that's our North Star, right? We don't ever lose that vision. You know, whatever comes in terms of punters or accolades, it doesn't really matter. Our North Star is like, how do we be proud and serve something that we really believe in? And that's ultimately what we all do. That's all we want to do to it.
So your restaurants have a common theme, travel, you know, is inspired by your traveling. You know, with Manteca, Italy, I see you're in Greece quite a lot. What I love about your restaurant group, and all your restaurants actually, is that price point, you know? It's like affordable luxury, and you don't doesn't seem to be a price point where you're ripping people off, or it's going to hit you too hard in the wallet. It seems attainable kind of thing. Is that a focus of you, of your restaurants?
Well, I think 2 things. I think SmokStack came from my background in Barbados, so then this is evolution of that. And don't know if we had the money to travel at the time, like we do now, the Mainster at least, where we take teams with us. And Manteca was very much Chris's vision as well. And then Agoura definitely was travel. That was a lot of it. I think, look, we're really simple folk. We create restaurants you want to go to. And I don't care what anybody tells me. Food tastes better when it's not expensive, or anything does. When you have lamb chops in Greece at £38 a kilo, €38 a kilo, they're going to taste better than lamb chops here at £150 a kilo. Like it generally does. And I think we try to create restaurants that we want to go to. And not only that, I think one of the real things in our restaurants is that we attract the same demographic. So when we were doing high-end restaurants, it's one thing where you serve somebody that's, and it's really expensive, but then you don't go to the pub with that person. It's almost anybody that comes to any of these restaurants you go to the pub with. And I think that's a real difference for me. You're serving a demographic that's within your grasp, and I think that's quite special, that we create restaurants that we want to go to. Ironically, I don't eat any of them. I can't stand it. But it's easy to slag somebody else's restaurant than your own. But I think ultimately we're really simple. We just create restaurants that we want to go to, or that we would want to go to. And that means the style of service we do, what you dress, the accessibility, what you wear, the price point. So we just really try and just make it really, really simple in layman's terms.
I think with the cost of living and how expensive things are, and I think it's a fabulous USP of you guys. Great quality food, really, really well sourced ingredients with the knowledge behind that you have. It is only a win-win for the guests in London as well. I mean, coming on to yourself and you as a business owner, I mean, do you sometimes pinch yourself about, and now you own 4 restaurants, what's it like walking in? How do you sort of keep arm's length, but also in the businesses quite a lot? How do you find the balance?
Yeah, it's a funny one. Like, nothing has happened overnight, and it's sort of a very, very gradual spin, I guess, or evolvement. So I think, look, it's my I hate to sound negative, but it's easy to find the faults and it is to find the good. And I think training hospitality with big groups like Gordon, you're trained to find these small things. But what I try to do now with the teams at least is let go. And I know it sounds really silly, but with SmokStack I was here too often. I don't think I allow people to grow. I'm a pretty big character physically and in many other ways. And I think it kind of hindered people growing a little bit, because you'd ask a head chef a question and I'm right there, or GM and I'm right there, and then all of a sudden eyes would look at me. If you're not there, they got to make a decision, right? And I think I didn't become micromanaging, but I think claustrophobic for sure. So with the restaurants now, I try to look very, very top level and very, very the absolute top and the absolute bottom. What I mean by that is on a very strategic vision, who we hire, what we stand for, the ethos of the brands and all that sort of stuff I'm really involved in. And then I go to very, very minute, so all the staff feedback forms, I'll read every single one. We will read other reviews in the morning, every end of day report. And I try to find all the holes between that. So let's say there's a disconnect between, we said that we get new heaters in the terrace, for example, and I read in reports that the terrace is cold on a review. Then I go back in the middle and try and fix it. But for the most part, if you hire really well, you empower your team, you resource your team, you leave them to hell alone, they'll do wonderful things. But you've got to learn to be able to allow and have a certain degree of flexibility to allow mistakes. With SmokStack, I mean, you couldn't make a step wrong. I was on you, and it meant that people didn't stay around that long. With the opposite now, where we allow them to do the job, and if they mess up, somewhere between the top level that we decide and the bottom, then they'll know about it. And I don't really mix my words, to be honest with you. But I think the passion comes from the group wanting to deliver an incredible restaurant, an incredible experience. And if somebody's on the terrace and it's cold, and they tell you to get new heaters, and you cop it, well, that's on you. So, and I make no apologies for that. So yeah, I think we try and look at the very, very top, the very, very bottom, and leave the management to do what they're good at.
So it was never in the plans for Oma, but you're sitting here with a Michelin star now. First and foremost, when I saw the news, I was so happy for you. I messaged you straight away. And how did it feel to have a Michelin star?
Yeah, wild. It was never really on the cards, to be honest with you. I think the common theme, I think, with what we try to create is all the restaurants have got a real energy to them, a real buzz, a real vibe. I think it's sort of, they're simple in many ways, but there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes. But we try to downplay that. We try to make it feel that it's just brisket, which is ultimately brisket, salt, and pepper. It is that, but it's also 15 hours of somebody in a smoker and a real skill to get it to that level. But I think in anything we do, and I think we've always, again, our North Star is serving something we're proud of and believing in it. That's our North Star. That's what we try to be. And the fact that the restaurants are successful and people want to eat in them, and there's accolades is great, but our North Star is almost, it's beyond that, if that makes any sense, is that our best days here are when you serve something you really believe in. And I'm really proud of Mission for sure. I think it's an amazing honour. And I love it for the team, if I'm honest with you, more than myself, because it means so much to them. In the beginning, it was never in the cards. So, but I love it for them. But that doesn't change what a North Star is. Mission is 2 or 3 or 4 inspections a year, maybe. I don't really know. We serve 3,000, 3,500 a week now. Like, that's what matters to me. That's what matters. Delivering that every day. And I think we will never be 100% there, and I will never be 100% happy as a result. So it's very much how do we deliver that to everybody that comes in the restaurant. Mission obviously gets a lot of people through the doors, but ultimately we serve punters, man. Serve people, and their experience is as important as Mission, right? So how do we deliver that every single time? That's a challenge. I don't know the answer to that question, but that's what we try to do. So yes.
Fantastic. And then talking about reviews, how do you take reviews? I mean, how does it feel when someone's writing something about your restaurant and just like, no man, that's not right? How does David react?
It's a good one actually. again, going back to the pessimists, you know, so it's quite funny, like we have this report from 7 rooms and it always starts with negative ones first. And the minute it gets to 5 stars, they don't even read them. But it's always a negative to try to find the silver lining. And I think, look, you've got to be able to separate yourself from the emotion of it, right? Am I good at that? Probably not. However, I know you need to be. And I think for the most part, when you see a review that's, you know it's going to come, for example, like back from the terrace is cold, the heater's not working.
Yeah.
And it's like, man, that just fucks me off. Sorry, that really annoys me. And it's sort of
You're allowed to swear, don't worry.
and it's like shit. Like we saw that coming. But then if somebody comes to the restaurant, we charge 12.5% service charge. There's £1 charity bill on the restaurant. It's like, okay, cool. I get it, but like, come on, this is London. Like nobody else that survives this level is doing it without service charge. That's not how this industry works. And if it does, I don't know how to work it. We're not Nando's where we have 60% of our team is front of house, 40% is kitchen. It doesn't work that way. Nando's is the opposite. Probably 40% kitchen, 20% front of house, or some version of that. It's sort of, so some people don't get it. So I think when it's things that you see and you know you should be better on, it hurts for sure, because it's almost like that's ownership. But when it's sort of somebody just being a bit whinging for the sake of whinging, I'm pretty good at sort of disconnecting them, for honest with you. But usually they're merited, and then that's sort of when we go back to the drawing board. But that's how we get better, right? That's how we improve. So,
I mean, we grew up with finding the little chunks that were wrong and not emphasising enough what was right, you know?
Yeah.
Gordon Ramsay Claridge's, me and you hung around in a restaurant for nearly a year together, and, you know, looking back, if I could have my one time again, I'd definitely celebrate what we did better, more than what we did what was less, you know, 100%. So, challenges for 2025 is good. On paper, it looks like a pretty challenging year ahead for our industry, with the minimum wage going up, which, personally, I think minimum wage going up is actually a fantastic thing for our industry, but also what it does, it gives a whole new level of staff. It's a career. It highlights like the importance of hospitality. How are you going to be? Are you worried for 2025? Are you?
Look, I think I've been always quite unemotional about macro factors. I can't control COVID. I can't control what happens in the economics. The only thing I can control is here, and I've always had a pretty mature, I guess, disconnect between the two. Look, the reality is it's going to become a lot more expensive for restaurants to operate. How long they can hold on and what they do remains to be unseen. But I remember April 2024, that was the single biggest jump we've had in terms of operating a business financially, the biggest hits since we opened. COVID was obviously, you know, monumental, but that was an anomaly. That was one-off. But in terms of all the other increases, all the other budgets, that was the biggest. I think this is definitely going to hurt for sure. There's rumours of what's going to happen next in terms of increasing prices. I think if you're in the bread rain right now, you could be a bit of trouble because it's definitely getting more expensive. I think our theory right now is to kind of just stay still, stay put, let it happen as it does. And I think what we try to do is let everything settle down. You know, there'll be a little bit of a frenzy. There always is. Prices going up. We're not going to increase anything for now. I think after a couple of months, we'll see where the market is at and where we need to increase and how much we've been pinched. But I try and not react too much because I think, look, it's a double-edged sword, right? It's prices are going up, but then people have less disposable income. So, you know, it doesn't mean increasing prices will still come to you. So we try to be in the middle where, again, accessibility, we want to be accessible. So we're not going to increase prices straight away and sit still, let it mature. And then once we have a bit more of an informed decision and we realize how bad it is or how good it is, we can act accordingly. But we're okay as a business. So we can afford to absorb some of it, and we want to start with.
Do you think guests are going to will understand what we talk about? When we talk about, you know, produce going up, rent going up, energy going up, everything going up, and then wages going up. Do you think guests actually get it? Because sometimes I hear guests, you know, especially when I read reviews for my clients, they're like, "Oh, and you add a service charge on," you know, you're like, "Yes, but you don't understand." So how do you counteract that?
I don't care if they understand, if I'm quite frank. I think ultimately when you're a punter, right, and you go buy a car or you go buy, I don't know, a loaf of bread, you don't necessarily care about, you know, the cost of living. You don't care about the wages or the oil. You just care about the price of the car. Yeah. And we try to be really, really simplistic. How we view it is a restaurant experience is a restaurant experience. There's loads of micro factors that contribute to the prices going up. And what we try to do is just focus on them and that. And if we can just do that and make sure that they have a good time, then everything else will work itself out behind that. So I think some people will understand, but we, for the most part, try not to kind of get in that sort of like, you know, explanation of it. It's like we just try to remain affordable or accessible. And if we make a little bit less profit margin, or if we do a little bit less and it's a little bit tight for a couple of months or whatever it is, we'll ride that. We've been fortunate that we've had some good years and some good times that we can actually afford to have a little bit of a squeeze. But I think it's sort of, we're here to feed you, not educate you, So I think it's sort of, let them have a good time, and the macro factors, we'll work with that as it does. But I try not to be too emotional about it. It's nothing I can control, and I quite like adversity. I quite like when it's not going well. It sort of keeps me on my toes. When it's smooth sailing, it's like, what do you want me to do? I enjoy when it goes a bit turbulent. It keeps me fresh.
Well, it's times when it's smooth sailing, so to speak.
Yeah.
What do you do? Do people watch where you travel next? So David Carter's in India, so you're going to open up an Indian restaurant. Do you watch what's next for David Carter, your restaurant group? What kind of current trends are you thinking is going to be hitting in the next?
Yeah.
I'm trying to get a bit of inside scoop.
It's quite funny. It's so funny that when we opened SmokStack, Kit Q was absolute belter. It still is for me the absolute holy grail. I think they had Red's True Barbecue. We were really late to the party, and everybody was like, "Don't do barbecue." And it's like, the trend is over. And it's like, what trend? We've never really tried to focus on the trends. Yeah. I think same thing in Manteca. It was the same thing. It was like Italian's been like done. Chris really wanted to do Italian. I was like, well, just do Italian then. And same thing with Greek. It was like, well, you're opening Greek. It's just in trend now. I was like, I don't care about trends. I think really good food is really good food. I think really good restaurants is really good restaurants. And I think really good vibe is really good vibe. That's it. So there's always sort of incarnations of what we've done, and it's quite weird when you create a restaurant, you're happy with what you created-ish, but then there's always like what you didn't create, what you didn't do with it. And I think some of that ideas kind of propel new ideas. So yeah, I've got a few ideas coming out, but I don't know, they're not at sort of a stage where we've actually got anything confirmed. And I think it's quite nice to dream, right?
Yep.
We've had 3 or 4 restaurants in the back of my mind since I was a kid. Some of them may come to fruition, some of them not, but it's quite nice to think about it. And when the time is right and when the site is right, we'll pull the trigger. But we're not gung ho for every opportunity. I think it's sort of, I want to do as little as possible in my life, but as effective as possible. What I mean by that is I've got no inclination to be massive or do amazing or whatever. But every restaurant we do, I want it to be fucking amazing. And if it's not that, I'm not interested. So that may mean no more. They may mean 1 more, they may mean 3 more, I really don't know. But it definitely doesn't mean being the next, Richard Carring, that's for sure.
Well, I think keeping them authentic and something you fully believe in has been
North Star is proud, right? North Star is proud. So long as we create restaurants we're really, really proud of, that's what we'll do. And the minute we stop doing that, then the minute somebody else will take over.
So who inspires you most currently in the restaurant industry?
Good question, actually.
And yeah, who's your like, yes?
I don't know if I've got one person in particular. I think there's a lot of godfathers out there. The Jeremy Kings and the Danny Myers. I think they've done things really, really well. I don't know if we've got anyone in particular. And I think it's sort of, I quite like, I think I quite like the challenge of creating things that are quite different and keeping us on our toes. And we've been quite really, really fortunate, like touch wood. I mean, how long that lasts for, I really don't know.
Anyway,
but yeah, I do things differently, and I think. Again, I don't necessarily have this ambition to be this, god of restaurants by any means, but definitely restaurants I'm really proud of, and I think it's a team that deliver that, right? There's only one of me, there's 280 of them. It's a team that deliver it, and I think that's sort of the guiding force, I think. So let's see what the next couple of years are like. I mean, it could be just quite chilled and a lot nurturing.
So what's been the biggest challenge that you've faced? It's probably an open-ended question because you've probably had quite a few. Yeah. But your biggest challenge in the last sort of 5 years, 6 years of you opening and running your restaurants?
It's a good question. I think it's quite funny because I think the challenges changed a lot over the time. I think when you launched SmokStack in the beginning, that was really, really tough because of the input it needed. I didn't realize how tough it would be, and if I did, I wouldn't have started it. So I don't think anybody in their right mind says I want to work 40 hours straight. No. I wouldn't have started it, honestly. And you laugh now, but it's so true. But when you're in the moment, I've got a pretty strong will, to be fair. I didn't realize I did until you're in the shit, and then you realize, shit, I've got to do it. But I think so. COVID has its challenges, but I didn't really find that too brutal, to be honest with you. I think
that's interesting.
I think 2021 was really tough coming out of it for staffing, because all of a sudden it was like, hang on a minute, you had this amazing resource and this amazing talent pool, to all of a sudden cherry picking bottom feeders, and there's nobody wanted to be hostile to anymore. Yeah. Everybody kind of left the industry. The industry probably wasn't very good to them over COVID, admittedly. and things went wrong. So I think it's always challenge. I think now I think it's, if you want to see it, for a lot of operators, it's rising costs for sure. I think that's a common theme right now. But I think it's now becoming an industry, as you said early on, which is a good point. It's attracting more people because it's not a low-paid industry anymore, or as low-paid as it was. But it's now more of an attractive an industry. So we're getting people that really want to stick to it. And yeah, I think, look, the challenges come and they go, to be honest with you. But again, I enjoy the challenges. I enjoy the challenges more than the ups. The ups is that I'm a bit useless. What do I do then? When it's going wrong, it's sort of when I kind of jump in, I guess. So yeah, we'll see what comes up next. But yeah, I wouldn't say it's overly. We're in a pretty okay position right now, where it's choppy, but it's not tidal waves right now, to be honest with you. So we just got to navigate a bit sort of smoothly and see where we get to.
I love the positivity, because it's all on the news and with budgets and like labour in place and all this cost of living crisis. Just to stay the same and trust the process and trust your restaurants is clearly a goal that works, and clearly something that's consistent within your restaurant group. What's success look like for you and David?
Success for me is that it's honestly being proud. Like it's really, I know it sounds really cheesy saying that, but when we did service together, right? The days that we had the best service are the days that you like, that was absolutely bang on. Every table was on time. We delivered an amazing product. Kitchen's happy. Those are your days. I mean, you go something. No, those are your highs. Yeah. And I don't do service as much at all anymore. And I tell the guys all the time, it's like, that's to aim for. If you do that and that alone, somebody's going to feed off that energy. Somebody's going to feed off that passion, and they're going to come back. And I think that's what success looks like for me. Team, and I also really know teams as well. I think the last openings we've had have really kind of proved to us like how much, especially senior management, are valued, or what they actually mean to the success of the operation. Yeah. And I wasn't able to step away as much as I could with the last one. It was sort of, I kind of was forced to, I guess, because of the numerous sites. But I stepped away from that one a lot more sooner than the other ones, because we had depth to the team, and not just in the restaurants, but a support team as well, and that made a big difference.
So one common theme across all your restaurant group, David, is cooking over fire. What's the appeal? Why is it so special to you, and why is it so important to your restaurant group?
That's a good question. I think in my personal case, it was very much what I grew up with. Barbados is like this, but warmer. Sun's out. It's all year round. So I grew up outdoor living and stuff like that. And I remember they saying, to answer your question early on, when we opened SmokStack, it's like live fire cooking and all that was a thing, and it was like, it's now becoming a thing. It's like, well, you're following a trend, right? Not following a trend at all. It's how we want to cook and how we want to eat. And I think fire brings in the flavor from fire was really hard to replicate, the energy of it, but also like there's something really warming towards it, and it's how I want to eat, to be honest with you. So and a lot of our restaurants start with theatre as well. Like, how do you create a vibe and energy? Not just like, we'll never have a closed kitchen in the basement up by dumb waiter, like no chance. It has to be a part of it. And when you immerse that in part of it with live fire, with a team, with chefs screaming, with things going wrong, that's a vibe. Whether it's a good vibe or not is irrelevant, but it's a vibe.
And guests love that vibe, right?
I hope so.
Guests love seeing it.
I hope so. I don't know. You tell me. I hope so. But yeah, that's a big part of what we do. So the energy of it, really.
Fantastic. Well, David, you're an inspiration to me. You're a fantastic friend. Wish you all the success in the future. I'm watching you grow. It's been phenomenal, and I can't thank you enough for your time today. It's been absolutely awesome.
Thank you very much for having me.
Thanks very much, mate.
Thank you. Thank you.